All right, boom, we are live. Friday evening, only a few minutes late, not too bad. Hope everybody is doing great. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, whilst I have some broccoli, you know what I mean? Going to get a nice little foundation. This evening we're going to be doing something a little different. I mean, typically we've been, speaking to a lot of Canadians on the podcast, and we haven't sort of dabbled as much across the border. So tonight we're getting to do something that is extraordinarily cool. If you're around for this one, I would highly recommend you stick around because this is like a literally history we're talking here, craft beer history in the States. It is extremely cool. Stefan's in the building. What up, bro? Good timing. Steph, you're going to like this one. This is good. This is going to be a good one. This is something that doesn't really get talked about a lot. The history of craft beer in the States, and particularly of black breweries in the States. And I'm excited to hear about it because personally I don't know as much as I would like to, so I'm excited to get schooled this evening. Stefan says eat meat. You know what? I mean, I do. Just want to. I'm trying not to be fat, Steph. The beer is killing me right now, man. And pandemic stuff, and you know how it goes. Because I'll think about it. All right. So with that said, I think I'm just going to get this going. Excuse me, guys. All right. What's good, y'all? This is C Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 26 of Beer Not Just a Podcast, Quarantine Edition, Adjunct series. This evening, I have one of the most interesting podcasts that we've done in a while, and we've had this organized, I want to say, for close to a month. I mean, very much looking forward to it. This evening, we are going to be joined by two gentlemen out of Sacramento, California, from a brewery called Oak Park. So we have Rodg from Oak Park and Theodore Mack Jr., the son of Theodore Mack Sr., who was the first African-American brewery owner in the U.S. So this is a special one. Guys, welcome. There we are. Guys, seriously, thank you so much for being here. Daniel, what up, bro? Really appreciate you guys coming through, spending the time and talking about this because this is a fascinating topic. The beer that we're going to be talking about tonight is literally history in a can. I'm fascinated to hear about it. So, first of all, shall we crack the beer? I think that's the most important thing. Lubricate. So this is we're going to talk in much more detail, the Peoples Beer Lager. I think we've all got different size cans here. It's the same beer in all of them, right? Yep. Same beer, different can. Beautiful. So whilst we are cracking this beer right now, maybe we'll start with you, Rodg, because you represent the brewery. So do you want to talk about your personal beer history and then move into sort of the history of Oak Park Brewery out there in Sacramento? And then we'll move on to Theodore. Theodore, you prefer to be called Ted, right? That's okay? Ted? Perfect. Thank you, sir. Yeah, go for it, Rodg. No, you can't be having that.
So I paid the tab, took some time off away from his establishment, and I invested $400 into myself. So I went out, got books on home brewing. I had friends that were home brewers, friends that owned breweries, and friends that were commercial brewers. And I just started digging in, and it became a passion, an expensive hobby along the way. And I just fell in love with it. It's a great pastime for me. So now I do it commercially at Oak Park Brewing Company, and I'm really enjoying it. And I was vetted by Kevin Johnson, one of the owners of Oak Park Brewing Company. He used to play with the Phoenix Suns. And also my co-brewer vetted me to come and brew at the brewery because there was a certain dynamic that they wanted, and I had it.
All right. Is Oak Park a black-owned brewery at all? Or
it is.
It is
It's one of two in Sacramento.
Okay.
And my buddy that gave me the beer tab, he owns the other one.
Okay, so it's all linked up. Okay, amazing.
Yeah,
Just so you guys know, I apologize for everyone mentioning it. The mute, when I clicked mute, it didn't unmute you until like a minute or so ago, so they just missed the
Oh,
first
wow.
little intro. So that was my bad. But they caught everything else. So I think most of what you're saying was all caught in there as far as how you got into beer and stuff. So that is perfect. Ted, do you want to tell us about your history with beer?
Yes, my father was the first African American to own a brewery in these United States.
Amazing.
He was first a civil rights giant in Wisconsin. He was the leader of something called CORE, which is the Congress of Racial Equality.
Okay.
And at the same time was the lieutenant to C.L. Franklin, which was the father of Aretha Franklin. He headed
Oh,
up what they call the Northern Leadership Conference. Father organized and led the March on Washington from Wisconsin, but he knew that true power and freedom is not just going to come with the vote, that we as blacks needed what they called economic power. And he said he believed that we must become owners to supply the good paying jobs of the black community. And he
okay.
said, who is better to show us love and concern for us than ourselves? And if we want to have success, we must learn how to do it ourselves. So this was his shining moment to be an example to his people, to take the next step of what he called economic empowerment.
Okay. And the story about how the beer came to be, or the brew. I'm sorry. So how we'll get to the beer in a second, but how he did he take over a brewery or he started it from scratch? I think I.
Yes, he when he was in the civil rights movement, he knew he had to make a change. His degree was in social work, so he started on that route, and then they started having him train
Whoa.
people, and then they would promote him over, and that my father would not work. And so he said, if you do it again, I'm gonna quit. They did it again and put the white person train over him. So he quit. And he started working at BAOS, which was building automobile frames at the time. And
Sorry,
he
Ted.
came home.
The audio is kind of gone a bit funny.
Yeah, I see. It's
I th-
sound funny.
yeah, can you hear that? I'm not sure what
Yeah,
that might be. I thought it was going to correct itself quickly, so I didn't want to
but it
interrupt
did.
you. Uh, It's
Is it
almost
good?
I can hear you, but it's almost getting whatever that background noise is. Or is that like I wonder if that's
Oh, was it? You want to try the headset?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
try that.
maybe try the other one in the
'Cause I
meantime.
don't hear it in my headset.
Can you
Yeah,
hear me now?
I can hear you now. Actually, yes.
Louder? Okay, let's just keep going.
Okay, all right.
Next.
Okay, so sorry to come back to it. So he purchased the brewery, or he started it from scratch was the original question.
He did not start from scratch.
Okay.
He ended up, when he came home one day from Bill Smith,
Oh,
there was a man waiting. And this was right after Martin Luther King got killed. And there were riots in the United States and cities worse than we see today. I remember at one time there was a tank coming down the street. But anyway, there was a man waiting for my father when he came home. And he said, my name is Jim. And this was John Wyndham, who was the CEO of Packard River. He was in the Chamber of Commerce in New Orleans. And right after Martin got killed, they had to make a decision to make a change. And they said, we have to do something to make this change. And he told my father, I've been checking you out for a while. And Pops let me know that I'm not a house cleaner, which means I'm not one to be played with. I'm not one to be played with.
okay.
And so he said, Mr. Mack, I know who you are. And so could you meet me at the brewery tomorrow morning? My father arrived half an hour, but Wyndham was already there. And that really impressed my father. He said, this is another man of excellence. He loved me. And so after he gave my father a tour, he asked him a question. How many blacks do you see? And my father said, well, less than I see fingers on one hand. He says, do you think that's fair? And my father said, H, no, that's not fair. And he said, this is what I want you to do to help me make this change. My father said, the only reason I will accept this is if I only report to you, the CEO. It was agreed, and so my father ended up hiring about 300 men, mostly black. And my father proved that he was an excellent manager. Eventually, Wyndham wanted him to learn all about the brewery business for everything except brewmaster. And then there was a fate that happened. Destiny kind of sprang forth, and there was an antitrust lawsuit against Patrick Ribbon to divest bats from him. At that time, my father saw this opportunity, and he ended up writing up a $9 million business proposal, which was approved by black bankers in New York City. And on the day of the bid process to buy this brewery, because my father had all the inside information because he worked there perhaps at Blast at Patrick Ribbon. And he came with a bid of $9 million, which was the highest bid, and they figured, hey, he's gonna win the bid. No, they let G. Heidemann up their bid to 10.8 million, and they basically stole that brewery from my father.
Right.
My father was not a brother that was quit. He just went on, and a lot of opportunities came to him. He said a lot of it was junk breweries to buy, but then one brewery from this small town, it was an all-white town in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and they said this is a good facility. They make good beer, and this will sell. My father was intrigued. He said, "I'm going to go and check it out," which he did with one of his partners. But then at the same time, he knew he was not an engineer, so he ended up calling up Wyndham, and he was a friend of him. So Wyndham said, "Hey, I owe you one because what we did to Flats. But what I would do now is I was in my engineer, I was in my master, and we'd check out the whole facility." And they did that, and they tightened up some things that need tightened up, and then the rest is beer history. That's when my father ended up buying Peoples Beer of Oshkosh, Wisconsin,
Hmm.
in 1970.
Okay. And this bad boy is a recreation of
Yes, it is.
one of or the main beer that they were making at People's Beer.
Yeah, this is the original recipe.
Original
So,
recipe.
yeah, so what you're tasting right now is something that's been waiting to be tasted for 50 years.
Amazing.
And this lager right here is a German lager.
Okay.
And I remember at one time when my father was going through this, they said because a black man is owning the beer, they're gonna make an in beer, they called it. And my father said no, it's gonna be the same quality. So he sent it to one of the institutes to rate beer here in the United States. And after they rated the beer, they said, "Well, this is one of the most highly rated beers in the United States." And
Wow.
they called up my father and said, "You have probably the best beer in quality in the United States." But
Jeez.
my father really didn't have the marketing at that time to let America know. But because of systemic racism, they didn't want to hear that anyway. Their whole thing was to stop this before 30% of their market was taken away by blacks finding out there's a black beer out there, or
Mm.
People's Beer out there. It's not a black beer. That's wrong, because my father used to say, "It's not a white beer. It's not a black beer. What we have here is a People's Beer." And he believed in excellence. He believed in quality and getting the job done no matter what.
I love that. What happened? Is that brewery still around? What was the sort of?
No, there is something in the beer industry called black bagging, and that's basically in the United States how the big boys squeeze you off the shelf
Okay.
and put you on a vine to die.
Mm.
And that's what they did to People's Beer.
Okay, and that's what they continue to do today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what year did the brewery officially close down?
It went for 2 years.
Oh, that audio! Did you hear that? Woo! Hey, it stopped.
It went for 2 years, and after that, 2.5 years, 3 years, and after that, it closed down.
Oh, it's coming back. Do you want to maybe try that the other headset? See if that makes a difference.
I don't think that's on.
I guess that's like some sort of a feedback we're catching there. Their other headset might work. While Ted's fixing that one, Rodg. So, as the brewer of this beer, like, how did you guys? How'd you meet? Excuse me. How'd you meet Ted? And how did the idea of recreating this beer after 50 years? Excuse me. Come about? Because that's pretty damn fascinating.
So KJ, he's a majority owner of the brewery. So when they opened up the brewery, they had this art piece that was created by Milton Bowens, and in his piece he had the old Peoples logo.
Okay.
So
which is this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a few months down the line, Kevin just had this idea. We want to do something different. We want to do something big. And he brought up the Peoples beer. Let's do something with the Peoples beer. And, my end, I was fired up because I already knew about Peoples beer and I was searching for more information anyway. And, we just put it out on the table to Kevin. Hey, why don't you reach out to the Mack estate and see what happens? So with that effort, it was either going to be a yes or a no. And I'm glad that it was a yes. Because, we're sitting here drinking that yes. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
That was pretty good.
Yes, we can.
No, that was good. You should write that. You should use that. You should use that.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Just reaching out to the estate. That's why we're here doing what we're doing now. We're just trying to push the legacy and the story out globally.
I love that. Is the recipe itself then? Did it use the cluster hops? Because that was something I was.
This recipe is exact.
Identical, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeast, the grains, the flake corn, everything's 100%. This recipe is actually close to 100 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so it hadn't been brewed in 50. So I think it's very special. It's a tasty beer.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great representation of the style.
And is it like you said? It was a German lager. Would you consider? Is it like Helles or something like that?
No, it would be more. It's like a light lager.
Light lager.
like a Coors Light.
Okay.
Just easy drinking. Pabst Blue Ribbon. It's like
Okay, because I guess at the time you think in the 70s. I mean, I know obviously when we think about beer, it's a whole. You can't even count the amount of styles, right? So in the 70s, there's pretty much
lagers.
Fizzy yellow water, this beer at the end of the day.
Right.
Okay, so was there any other beers that were made by Peoples Beer back in the 70s?
That's a good question for Mr. Mack, so he can share that information.
Yeah, actually they made something called Scotch. I'm still repeating.
Yeah, it's still feeding back. I feel it's so strange.
Okay.
I wonder if there's another. It's either I wonder if we can either share one of the laptops, like share it, or if you go into separate rooms or something.
Yeah, we can. Let's do that. So you can plug your headset up in here too.
Yes.
Let's see if that.
Sorry, folks. You know how this goes. We're in a pandemic here. This is what we have to. Everything's always a challenge. Should I cut Ted's visual out? Yeah.
Let's see if this works real quick.
Okay.
Let's see if it works.
Okay, yeah, let's see if it works first.
Yeah.
I wonder how I can just actually pull it off the screen. There we go.
Okay, is he there?
So I can only see you, Rodg. You're like dead in the middle of the thing.
Yeah.
So even if
Can
it's
you
like,
hear? Is his audio good to go?
let's see, Ted, do you want to talk? So, whoa, there's a little
Okay,
bit.
is that better?
Let's see, Ted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can't see you though. I can't see your face though.
Yeah, you can cut his feed off, and we can go on my
Yes.
feed. Yeah.
Let me. Do you know what? Can you, Ted? Maybe from that other computer. I don't know how to cut you off this Skype call. Can you just hang up on that Skype call?
Okay.
Yeah, and then I've taken you out of the live feed, so then that should stop anything from that side, and then we should be good to go now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm not a technology guy, so all of this is new to me.
Yeah, man, it's no problem. Okay, so now I got that on the Skype. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
It's all good, man. Like this is something we never used to do, Skype interviews, because we like to go to the place and talk to the people and tour the facilities and film it all. And because of the pandemic, obviously, this is the only way for us to talk to breweries. So whilst it's opened up a whole world, because who knows when we're going to be in Sacramento next, it also there's other challenges. Like we've got to figure all this stuff out on the fly, so people understand. There's no problems at all. What were we just saying? We were talking about the other styles of beers that Peoples Beer made.
Yeah, actually, they had other styles. There was something called Chief Oshkosh,
Okay.
which was a brewery across the street from Peoples. But my father really just brought the labels. He didn't buy the beer itself because he said the labels had more value than buying the brewery.
Right.
So he brought the labels and they just adjusted it for that. And then every year they had a holiday beer.
Okay.
It's like during the holiday season, they would come out with a holiday beer. So that was the only ones I remember, the holiday beer and Chief Oshkosh.
And that one. What would...
And
Sorry,
he
continue.
was Chief Oshkosh for the main reason. This is when the big boys were trying to close them down. He said to go around that because of the distribution that Chief Oshkosh had. He said that can help us survive as we build up Peoples Beer. Because Peoples Beer had a contract with the U.S. government, and with that contract, it was supposed to send them over the top. But they had a contract with the, I believe it was the U.S. Army.
Okay.
The U.S. Army actually brought one case of beer.
Just...
But my father brought all these semis, had everything in place, and he got a call from one of his contacts out of Wisconsin saying, they're just trying to put you out of business. That's their whole game. They're not going to give you nothing. And that's why they told him what was going to happen, and it happened. My father was warned because he had people inside, let's say, the structure of the beer industry to tell them what they're trying to do to them. There's the big beer cartels didn't want to have competition from this black guy who could have took 30% of their marketing in a short period of time. So they knew they had to kill him quickly as far as the business, and that they did.
Wow. It's so crazy that they were able to do that, unfortunately, so efficiently back then. And then even, like I was saying, to this day, their distribution strategies are constantly pushing craft breweries out of supermarket shelves and gas station shelves and specialty stores and stuff. It's horrendous. And I wonder if, I guess back then, being that there were less competition in the, right now, obviously there's about 8,000 breweries in the States. Back then, I would imagine they would be in the hundreds at most, probably.
Yeah, you had monopolies back then.
Like a straight monopoly, though. So probably.
And they worked together.
Right.
When they squeezed my father out of the first one that he was going to buy, which was blacks from Hatchable Ribbon, they worked it out. They worked it out so that G. Heinemann was able to up the bid. Now, if they could up the bid, why couldn't the one who won the bid process up their bid?
Right.
They didn't let my father up his bid, and then my father saw how G. Heinemann didn't even have the money at the time to up their bid.
Right. So
my father said, let us go ahead and look at the valuation of the property, because my father knew it was worth millions more. So it was easy for him to up his bid, but they had to have the time to do the valuation. They wouldn't wait 30 days to get that done.
Right.
And so they said, no, they just going to go with this up bid. They didn't even have the money. They didn't have to come up with it. All they want to make sure that this black guy doesn't get this black company that would have competed with them directly, and that would have been harder to stop.
Okay. So then the next step, as far as obviously, they did end up shutting the brewery down, but when was the next, obviously your father kicked it off, and that was the start of, I guess, something that probably still is quite low. Last I heard, it was less than 100 black-owned breweries, or at least minority-owned breweries. Is that accurate? I believe. So after your father, then do you guys know when the next African-American, or at least person of color brewery was opened in the States?
I don't know who was the next after that, but I do know that now, because when you see all that's happening, you see minority beers coming about. And just like the gentleman sitting next to me, they're giving new hope because, see, as he said in one interview we had, that this is what blacks used to do, is make beer, wine, and all these things, They used to do that. And now we have an opportunity, but even though we have in the United States, especially systemic racism, had it back then, have it now,
Yeah.
even though they will deny it, but as a father of two black sons and a black daughter, but two black sons especially, I know what they go up against.
Mm.
I have to tell my sons to be careful when they're around the police.
Yes.
Other coaches don't have to do that. I have to tell my sons are both in college. They both speak French and one speaks Chinese.
Right.
When they stop them in a car, all that those that don't partake of us or like us, all they see is a threat. And that's all they have to see is a threat. And that threat can be put out because when we say Black Lives Matter, what we mean is that you don't believe we matter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're not asking to be better than anybody else. My father was a civil rights worker, and he always said, treat others as you want to be treated. But when we were in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, as the only black family at that time, my father said, you represent all your people here. So you can't be crazy. You can't act foolish. You gotta carry yourself as a man that I was a young man, but you have to carry yourself with sense. You have to carry. He said, "You're first a Mack. You my son. You represent me. Then you're black. You represent a community that they don't know. So we got to show them who we really are. He wouldn't have us getting in trouble. We had to do what we played football, we played the sports, we did all the things you're supposed to do. And I remember mostly he was accepted in Oshkosh because my father was a veteran. He went to the military. He fought for this country. And I'm gonna tell you a story. This is how racist America could be. My father's from Alabama. He picked cotton. And when he graduated high school, he felt I can get an education like everybody else in Alabama. So he went to the University of Alabama. They threw his application in the trash and said, your kind is not accepted.
Hmm.
He went to Auburn University. They basically almost did the same thing, let him know he wasn't accepted. But when he got home, a week later also, he got this envelope in the mail. And he was like, wow, what is this? And all of a sudden it says, thank you for volunteering for the U.S. Army. My father never volunteered for the U.S. Army. One of those schools in Alabama volunteered my father for the Army.
Wow.
But my father went and did his duty. And when he got into the Army, he always cared about others. And he noticed that soldiers always had to clean up after the white soldiers. They went over and fought in the war. But these white soldiers were rookies. They just came.
Right.
They just came from training. And they got to go home for Christmas. The black soldiers cleaning up after the white soldiers that went home for Christmas. And they're like, we're the veterans. We went over there to fought. And we came back and we still don't get our time off. And so my father was arguing with a higher officer, which is illegal in America. He got court-martialed. And then he said a general came by and said, what's going on? And my father kind of told him what was going on. And he said, all right. He pulled the other officer to the side and he was kind of giving it to him. And then he finally, after that, the black guys got their R&R. So my father was always somebody fighting for other people. He did it in civil rights movement. He did it in at Peoples Brewery, And even after Peoples Beer, he had a black hospital. He was administrator of a black hospital with black nurses and doctors. And he fought so that Blue Cross Blue Shield would pay them. He always fought, but the thing about it, he didn't carry hate in his heart. He showed love to all people. When he was in Oshkosh, they thought he was going to fire all the whites at Peoples Beer. He said, no, I'm not going to fire the people who are working hard to make my brewery successful. He said, but if I hire some blacks, and if they work hard to make it successful, I'm going to hire some blacks. Mm-hmm. He said, but I'm not firing nobody. I'm keeping everybody. But that day he brought the brewery, he lost 19 of his accounts, his main accounts, all 19. But my father is not one to complain. He said, son, when there's trouble, I send me. And so basically what Pops did was he went out there to meet all 19 of those people and got 18 of them back.
Nice.
He was the type of guy that will fight. He was well known in the community. He was part of the Chamber of Commerce. He let people know that he's not one to be messed with, but he's not one to be a threat either. Because when he came to Oshkosh for the grand opening of Peoples Beer, he didn't carry all his staff with him and his other business associates in United Black Enterprises. He went there by himself because he said, I don't want them to see me needing backup. He said, I want them to see intelligence. I want them to see a man that, carries himself with a bit of class, a man that's not scared, and a man that's there to run the brewery. And he said, son, I'm going to go up there and run that D-bang. He said, I'm going to do that. And that's what he did. And he, in the politics side of it, he used to back governors getting in office and senators getting in office. So how he really got people's is when it came time to do the finances side and all of a sudden they lost his paperwork, or when it came time that the loan was finally approved, usually in America, you're going to put up 20%. But they told him, for this brewery, you got to put up 50%.
Right.
And he's like, what? 50%? And he said that got him angry. And I ain't gonna tell you what he said. You say I can cuss him, I'm not. I'm not gonna do it. But what he said was that I ain't gonna tell you, but he said it got me angry in another way, and you're not gonna stop me.
Right.
They think I'm gonna quit. He said no. Instead, I'm gonna raise this money. And he started selling. He wanted to sell stock, but again, the paperwork got lost. The paperwork got stalled in the United States in the Securities Exchange. They said, no, it got stalled. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Mm. And my father knew the governor. He called the governor. Guess what? All of a sudden, they found the paperwork. All of a sudden, he was able to sell his stock. So he sold stock in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he sold stock in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. The only two places you can buy it. Oshkosh, Wisconsin was mostly white. He wasn't expecting much, but he went up there by himself. Guess what happened? More whites brought part of Peoples Beer than blacks because their families were supported by it up there. My father owned the majority of stock, but the stock that he was selling was brought by whites because he said, this is a beer of the people. He said, listen, I'm trying. He said, we gotta look at things in a way that we gotta learn how to love each other than hate each other. It's easy to hate. Mm-hmm. That's about fear. He used to say that, you know what, in America, he said, the white man in America has created a monster called hate. Mm-hmm. He said, what it does is it deafens your ears so you can't hear. He said, it blinds you in your eyes so you can't see. And he said, then it does something to your brain so you can't think straight. Mm. And then it gets to a point where hate just starts taking over and infuses you, and you inject your children with this evil. And then your children carry on a legacy of hate. And if you want to see what's going on in America, That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We have never come to the grips of how our country was founded. Our country was founded on hate, and we never, if I'm married, okay. Whenever I get in an argument with a wife, and if there's a man that say he never got in an argument with his wife, he's not married. Okay? But whenever we got in an argument with my wife, I found to get solutions sometimes there had to be this thing called forgiveness. But forgiveness never came without somebody admitting that I take the blame. And it usually was me.
Right.
Because I want peace in my home. I love my wife. People say they love their country. They love their citizens in their state, but you don't act like it. And so when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not saying we want to be better than you. We just want you to live up to your creed in your Constitution. Give me the same rights that you give everybody else. And then we're cool. Because my father used to tell me, all we're looking for is an opportunity. He said, son, all Peoples Beer to me was an opportunity. And I was determined to make it work.
That's amazing. Oh, brilliantly said. Your father sounds like an exceptional human being. Tiffany was saying here, the system of racism is woven so tightly into the fabric of America, and can only have respect for that level of perseverance, which is really what it's all about. On a lot of those subjects that you touched on, then, Rodg, from your side, as a black brewer in America going through this, I mean, like I was going to say the times are crazy, but let's be like nothing's changed, as Ted just said, over whatever 400 years. How have you found being a black man in a predominantly white industry? As far as like, did you deal with any of the sort of maybe not that level of treatment that Mr. Mack Sr. would have received or anything? Like, how have you found that? Has it been like we spoke with Marcus from Weathered Souls, and he said, he goes, to be honest, like it's been pretty chill for me. He didn't really have many, I don't just worked out well for him. But I'm curious in comparison, how has it been for you?
Okay, and Marcus, he's actually from Sacramento.
Right.
So,
oh yeah, he is. Okay.
Yeah. So great guy, man. Had the pleasure of meeting him a couple times, and his family, his pop, OG cool.
Yeah.
So I see the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Nice.
So I haven't. Everything's been okay. I haven't had any like blatant, like in my face kind of incidences, but I grew up in the South, so I know my surroundings.
Okay.
So it's like I'm always aware who's around me, what kind of vibes going on around me, my vibe. But I found that, just being in the beer community, you have some good people.
Right.
And it's like, we all have that commonality of like, we want to talk about beer, good beer. Sometimes you talk about current events or whatever, but overall, the beer conversations, I can talk about beer forever. So, but as far as anything like straight up in my face, I haven't encountered that. But I know there's some things out there and some people, but it's like I'm not trying to think about that, because if you put it out there, then that's what you're gonna attract to. So it's been pretty chill for me, as like Marcus said, but I'm not looking for it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective, because I guess you're right. If you focus on something, that's what you end up attracting. I guess as long as you haven't had these sort of blockers. I mean, obviously, if you're an owner like Mr. Mack Sr. was, I can imagine those level, like that government level and bureaucracy level blockers from financing, from permits and all that type of stuff are much stronger than, say, if you're just trying to move, I want to brew here and such. Was it important for you to work at a black-owned brewery, or was it, or did it just happen to work out that way?
Well, and like when I was vetted, I had already researched, getting a job in a brewery, and there's no money in it.
There really isn't.
Like, I'm a home brewer at heart, so I was like, I can live with that. But when I was vetted by Jeff and KJ, it was a long process, but in the end, it made sense. It's like it had to be educational, it had to be fun, it had to be about community. As I didn't want to be local. It's
Right.
like if I believe in something, I'm gonna put 150% into it, and I'm always gonna hype it up because I believe in it.
Right.
So with this brewery, we're more than just a brewery. We're always brewing up something outside of beer.
Okay.
So we always have things going on, and we're definitely here for the community because if it wasn't for the community, we wouldn't be here.
Good point.
And I can share this when you come to our establishment, it's very diverse all around, front of the house, back of the house. The clientele, the music that we play. So it's very versed, and when you walk in, you should feel at home. You're going to be greeted. You're going to sit down next to somebody. You're probably going to have a conversation. So, and that's what we believe in, and that's what we project, and that's what we're attracting to us.
I like that a lot. So therefore, the tap room, the patrons and the staff represent and reflect the community on the outside.
Yeah,
I love that. I think that's the ultimate goal, right? Like, I imagine you might be familiar with Crowns and Hops, Tio and Benny.
Yeah. We're actually having a meeting with. We're gonna go online with them tomorrow.
Oh, nice. They are very close friends of ours for many years. We started around the same time, and watching their growth has been crazy. So proud of them. And the first time, like we're in Montreal, Quebec. I'm not sure if you guys are super familiar with the sort of the region. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, so super white. I mean, it's diverse, but it's like overall, let's be real, it's pretty white. Canada overall is quite diverse. Quebec not so much. But the first time we went on about 3 years ago, we went to LA and we hung out with them. We went on one of their what do you call it? Not a cruise. What is it? A brewery crawl thing, like on a bus. And it was the first time that either of us, like Tiffany and myself, had been in a room with you name it, every ethnic background, gender, sexuality, everything. And we stopped. I remember we found ourselves like in Mumford in LA, just stopping like, yo, what? This is what it's about. It was the first time like I'd seen that before. So, and it's ridiculous that we were sort of overwhelmed by like, hey, this is crazy. So it's really cool to hear that that's what's happening up in Sacramento. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I love that. So I was just thinking as we were talking before. So the Peoples beer now, is this going to be something that is going to be a regular thing? Is it going to be a year round? Is it going to be a regular sort of collaboration, even if it's not year round? It's going to come out regularly, or is this kind of a one and done type of situation?
It's more than one and done.
I hope so. Good.
Year round, and we would love to see it around the world.
Okay.
One of the things when they were trying to shut him down, this is how far United States went. That there was an African country that said, hey, there's a black brewery. They may need our help, and we may have the finance to help them. Nigeria,
wow,
where the oil comes from. They were coming to examine people's beer, but you know what the United States did? They canceled their visas, so they could not come.
Oh my gosh. It's like one thing after another.
Yes. And so my father then knew. He said, it's more than this systemic racism. He said, this has gotten personal.
Yeah.
They want to take me down.
Yes. He got too big.
But he would not give up. He was I wrote a book called Man Unafraid, Reflections of My Father. And in it, I talked about this part of him, this inner drive that he had. And it really came from when he was a kid. When he was a kid, he used to pick cotton. This is a black man that his mother was a child of a slave.
Okay.
And he was picking cotton, but they owned their land in this small Alabama town.
So it's for the family business type of thing?
Yeah, it was. No, you're surviving on this piece of land, but you worked on other white folks' land property.
Okay.
So my father, he remembered he was plowing a cotton field, and these white guys stopped in the truck and said, "Nigga, don't you know that you're not supposed to walk behind a mule? You're supposed to ride it, and they just started laughing and drove off, right? And my father was so humiliated. He said, you know what? I'm not going to be doing this the rest of my life. And then he told another incident when there was this store owner, white store owner, and he had a son about the same age as my father, a young man, young. They're not even in their teens, they're young. And my father comes in to get some items, and the gentleman tells my father, you got to call my son sir from now on. And he's the same age, they're young kids. And my father said, I'm not going to do that. And he said, well, you one of them uppity niggas. He said, but you going to end up dead in the gutter, just like the rest of y'all, because you're not nothing like the rest of them, not nothing. You're going to be dead in the gutter with a wine bottle in your hand, drunk, because that's what y'all do. And that's how you're going to turn out. So when my father brought Peoples beer, the first thing he did, he told my mother, I got to go back to Alabama and do something. My mother said, why are you going back to Alabama? Then she thought about it. And she knew who my dad was. And she said, oh, I know where you're going. She said, yeah, I got to have a conversation. He went to that same store. The son is grown now. He said, where's your father? He got his father. His father came out. And he said, remember when you said that I was going to end up drunk and I'm dead before I'm 40 because I'm like the rest of them ends? He said, I just want you to let you know. I graduated from Marquette University. I played football for Ohio State University under Woody Hayes. He said, I got my degree. I just bought a brewery in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Does that sound like failure to you? And my father was going to blast him because he wanted, because my father was a very highly intelligent man. But he wanted him to say something so my father could break him down mentally. But the guy said, Ted, I'm sorry.
Okay.
He said, I want you to go back and you do that. You continue to do things you're doing because we heard about you. That's great. You keep on doing that. And I'm sorry I said that to you. And my father said, man, you messed me up. Because that's not what I was coming, that's not why I drove all the way back down here.
Right.
And he said, I have to respect that. And that's what I'm saying. You know, that was somebody who took responsibility. They said, I'm sorry. And what America needs to do is say, hey, I'm taking responsibility of what we've done to you. We put you in these ghettos. There's proof that, Ollie North and the boys brought that crack cocaine to our communities and then turned the other way. But now, notice, God is a God that yeah, okay, you think you're going to do that? I'm still going to get you. Because now they see their children on these drugs, and now they wonder, oh, wow, it's so bad. But what happened when you brought the drugs in our community, destroying our communities? It was okay then. All you talk about is crime. But your kids, when they're doing that, and they start crime to get their drugs, then you put them in treatment centers. What's the difference?
Yeah.
There's only one difference. That's why powder cocaine and then crack cocaine has two different penalties in the United States. That's why when they said, hey, 3 strikes you out, they mean 3 strikes you black out.
It's true.
And then 1 strike, you go to treatment center if you got another hue in your skin color. All we asking for is, and that's all my father really asked for, is just give us an equal opportunity and let us have the rights like everybody else has. And then, this God-given talent that we have like everybody else has, we'll find out it'll be better for the whole country, not the whole country, but the whole world. And we have to handle our business too, because my father really did not appreciate any man that did not handle his business with his family. He would let you know, black or white. You got children, you brought them in the world, you better take care of them. Because the family is key. So when you destroy the family, you destroy a lot. So, I appreciate this time, man. You just got me poured out like.
No, this is great.
I'm throwing up information, man.
No, this is gems, man. This is wisdom right here. This is a blessing to hear all this from you guys. I love it. Everything you're saying. I nothing I can even say to that because it's perfect. You've nailed it for any criticisms of the Black Lives Matter movement or there's something that we're strongly support here. I wanted to actually ask on that note with regard to that. Did the collaboration at all, was it inspired by, or did it stem from the what's been happening over the summer, or obviously was this in the works long before? Thank you.
It basically really, when they got to me, it was stemming from what was going on.
It did. Okay.
Because there's a movement, Black Lives Matter movement in the beer industry, craft beer industry. You told me about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it at the time. But when they were doing the research and they researched my father and really looked at his history, they said, wait a minute, this guy is the real deal.
Right.
He is the whole movement of Black Lives Matter. He is the whole movement of what we're trying to get, equal rights. He was a civil rights worker. He was an entrepreneur back in the day. He was one that would never quit. And that's how my father, he left an example to me that if you want something, son, you got to work hard. You gotta outthink the opponent, and you have to make sure that you're not in a position where you can let somebody else tear you down. He said, but you don't quit because it gets hard. Is it gonna get hard? Yeah, it's gonna get hard. Is it gonna be hard enough where you may want to quit sometime? Yeah, it's gonna be that. But are you gonna be the one that have the fortitude to fight through the pain to get your gain?
I love it. No, that's really cool to know that it was sort of, I guess, amplified even by everything that's happening, because this came at such a pivotal time. I mean, it's not like this is the first time it's happened. Obviously, it's been like every year, every other year, it sort of spurs back up again. Something just hit me as you were talking there. Where was the recipe for this bad boy? I guess you had.
You're trying to get all my secrets, right?
Right? Please tell me if I'm going too far, sir.
I'm just gonna tell you that the recipe. Well, my father kept a lot of information. Okay. And it just at the right time, Let's say I located the recipe.
Boom.
And it was a recipe for brewmasters.
Okay. Did you understand it, or was it a little like, what does this even mean?
I knew it was a recipe for brewmasters. It said brewmasters this is a recipe only for brewmasters, because nobody else would have kind of understand it.
Okay.
And when Rodg and Jeff did what they did, I was really impressed when I heard about it, because they went back to get the yeast that's not even made anymore.
Okay.
They went back to get the original yeast made.
Jeez. Make the yeast.
The original yeast made, and some products that seldom used today in beer that they're using for this. And this is actually something that you haven't been made like this in 50 years.
Right.
They don't even do it like this anymore.
No.
But they wanted to go through all the steps to get it right, because we wanted to bring back an original. And we wanted to bring back an excellence. And when you look at the can, this is the original design.
Can you hold that up a little bit? There you go.
This is an original design that has a little bit of story on the can, that when people drink it, they can read a little bit about what happened.
Yeah.
And we just want to make sure that people understand that this is a continuation of legacy. My father's a legacy. And it's a continuation of a legacy for the people and by the people.
Mm.
Real folk for the folk.
I love it.
So, we just want to let everybody know that if you believe that opportunity is for everybody, give it a try. And if you believe that everybody deserves a shot, and that's what my father wanted to do, just give it to us. Give us an opportunity to show what we can do. And this is, again, showing what we can do. And it's not at a low level, it's at a very, very high level.
Oh, absolutely. I was actually just thinking, Ted, were you old enough to drink when this came out in the 70s?
Well, you telling you now, so you want me to tell all my secrets.
I get right into it, man. I don't hold back.
Guess what? I wasn't old enough to drink, but I was in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
So no one can.
I was old enough to open that can.
That's all that matters. So then,
Yeah.
was this I guess because my original question was this the first time you've really, truly tasted this beer? So if you tried it back then, did this blow your mind seeing what, Rodg and Jeff did with this?
I stopped drinking. Oshkosh cured me from drinking because there was so much people's beer around.
Right.
I remember, and it's cold, like Canada gets cold.
Oh, yeah.
I was in Wisconsin, it gets cold.
Yes, I heard.
So I'm in high school, and there's an event going on that night. And in Oshkosh, when an event goes on, this happens. Okay? And so I ended up where a friend found me. I call him saved my life because in the middle of winter. I was on a take it for some reason, something made me take a nap on a snowbank. So
I blame the beer. Definitely the beer.
I figured after he woke me up, I better stop this here because it was dangerous.
It got to be.
And I did. I really haven't tasted it since I came down here. And this was, when I walked in, I smelled it. I said, wow, this smells like the brewery when I was a kid. And then when I tasted it, because I don't drink, when I tasted it, a funny thing, my father didn't drink either.
Interesting.
He just saw this as an opportunity to employ and empower people.
Love it.
And he did drink one time that I know of. They drunk on the table. They said, you don't even drink beer. He's like, oh, let me show you something. And they just drank my father. He came home one night and I was like, that's the first and only time I seen him drunk. He said, them boys right there just drank me under the table. And yes, they did, because I saw how he was walking. My whole thing is that he was able to talk to people and relate to people, black or white. I had a friend from Oshkosh. She said, you know what, my dad was like best friends with your dad. He owned the brewery right next to, he owned the tavern right next to the brewery. And your father used to come in there and talk to him all the time. He said, my father used to talk about him all the time. And it was amazing that my brother was at one time here in California. And we're in Wisconsin, but he was here in California. And this after Pops, been through some things after this, and he was a businessman afterwards. But he said that this man called up. See, what happened in Wisconsin, in Oshkosh at least, we had something called a Better Chance. The Better Chance program allows minorities from inner city to have an opportunity to a better life, a better chance in small town USA. And usually it's mostly white USA. So we being one of the few blacks there, my father was the house parent. He was going to take over the guardianship of these kids when they were there. And so he went to pick up the kid from the airport, the one assigned to him. And so my dad was waiting for this black kid to get off the plane. He never got off the plane. And my dad was like, how could you miss the plane? How did this young guy miss the plane? And then a young white kid came up to him and said, Mr. Mack? He said, yeah, I'm Mr. Mack. And then my father laughed. He said, oh, God, you playing a trick on me. So the underprivileged kid that you send to Ted Mack is a white underprivileged kid. He said, okay, I'm cool with that. So what happened was my father treated him like he would treat anybody else, helped the guy out. So here's many years later, maybe 20, 30 years later, my brother is in California. He gets a call from somebody and said, I used to be in the ABC program, and I want my son to meet the son of Ted Mack, who changed my life. So could you meet us? And my brother said, of course. So he said when he met him, this white guy, he thought it was a white guy, walked up to him with his white son. And he said, son, this is Ted Mack, son, the man that changed my life. And he shook my brother's hand and he told him, you know what? I want to let you know, your dad changed my life. And right now, I'm a district attorney. He said, then I was on the streets. and your dad helped me. That's what kind of dude he was, you know. He had a heart for others always. You know, I remember one day during Christmas, he brought home a wad of money and said, I'm going shopping. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get the best presents. I was all excited, right? Dad came home with no presents. I was mad. I was like, what you do? You don't know how to shop. You gonna come back with the big bags and you didn't come back with nothing. He said, I just called the family together. I want to tell you, he said, I just had the best time in recent memory. And we're like, yeah, but ain't no presents. I don't know what you talking about. You know. And he said, when I was out there, I saw people who were Christmas shopping, but I saw a lot of pain. And he would tell certain people's expressions and how they were putting gifts back. Grandmother saying, we don't have enough money for that. We don't have enough money for that. And then Dad would give them a couple $100 and they would scream, but he'd go walk to the other side. Then he'll find, it could be black or white. He'll find an old white guy that just barely making it down. Dad would give him 100. Give another person a couple hundred. People screaming, thank you, sir, thank you. He kept doing it. He stayed in the store until all the money was gone. He said, that was the most enjoyable time I've ever had, son. He said, because you know, it's better to give than to receive. And I said, yeah, you know, I'd rather have some gifts under the tree. You know. But my pops taught us integrity. He taught us sacrifice. He taught us that life is not easy and everybody's not going to like you. It can be for stupid reasons. He said, because you got to carry yourself. Like he said, always you say, you're a Mack. And Mack men handle their business. He said, Mack men use your leaders or preachers. Okay. And I'm a deacon at the church. So don't tell everybody I curse them.
No. Keep that between us.
But it don't mean you're perfect. All that means is that you serve others. And that was real important. And my father, that's what he's taught from his mother, that you serve others and you do the best you can. And here's all these people that came from this little shack in Alabama, but they end up doing great things. They made a name for themselves. And what I mentor young people. And what I tell them is I try to get them to find that gold that's inside of them. Because everybody has a seed of greatness. And a lot of times that seed has not been watered with the words of wisdom and maturity to tell them and show them who they are. And sometimes when you tell a person who they are, the light goes off. And say, wow, I can do great things. Yes, you can. It's not that you've given it. I don't look at people just been given great things. I like people to say, hey, I went through, because we all go through, but through your pain came your greatest kind of gain. All right, I'll talk enough here.
No, I love it.
I'm listening.
This is gold. You're dropping gems.
This is like a library.
Yeah, right. It's
auto book. Like it was like audible book.
That's kind of what it is, right?
Yeah.
I have a question from Tiffany for Ted, but maybe what I'll do, I'll come back to that in a second. Rodg, I want to ask you for the beer nerd side of it, just to switch it up. How was it when you got the recipe from Ted, and then you saw it and you're like, wow, this is something, I mean, imagine it'd be handwritten or something from the 70s. How did it go when you were looking at it? Like, what sort of, not translation, but sort of like making it, scaling it to your size equipment, to modern equipment, and then create the yeast? Like, that's insane. Like, can you just break down the process of what it was like recreating a 50-year-old beer? Because that is amazing, man.
This is going to blow you away.
I'm ready. Let's go.
We brewed the recipe. We saw it and we're like, oh, we don't have to change anything. It's already scaled.
Really?
Crazy, right?
So it was like just good to go, easy. It's all the FG, OG, all the everything was there.
Knew when we saw the recipe, we were like, we understood it. It was brewed on a system that was a little bit larger than our system, but we didn't have to make many changes or tweak it.
Okay.
So it was super simple, and I was surprised at how simple the recipe was.
Right.
So it's a tasty beer, and we didn't have to do a lot of work. We knew what we were doing, And the hardest part was waiting.
Right, because you got the what,
Waiting.
6 weeks,
We did it in about 6 weeks.
6.
Yeah. So, but through that 6 weeks, once we got into the fermenter, we would taste it as it was moving along, and at a certain point, Jeff and I both were like, "This is gonna be good."
It's gonna be good.
Yeah. So we were super stoked. Yeah.
How did you recreate the yeast? Because that is arguably
We
the
actually
wildest part.
we sent it off to a lab, and they grew it from scratch. They knew exactly
What
what
you're
strain
talking
of
about.
yeast it was.
Mm.
Yeah, it took about 3 to 4 weeks for them to grow the
It's
yeast.
not bad.
Yeah. So
Almost sounds too easy.
Yeah. And say that one more time. Did you say it?
Oh, sorry. It almost sounds too easy. Like
Yeah.
when Ted was saying like, oh, they made the yeast from scratch to replicate it. I'm like, oh, that's going to be a process, but 3 or 4 weeks. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
it sounds easy, but you have to feed the yeast to
okay,
grow it. So it's definitely a process, and if we had to grow the yeast ourselves, we wouldn't be drinking the beer.
Yeah. Did
So,
one of the I don't know why this like popped into my head, but I was like, was there any surviving original cans from the 70s that maybe you could pop open and take the
yeah,
yeast from that?
hold on for a second. I got to take a phone call. Hold
No
on for a
problems, no
second.
problems. Ted, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Tiffany says, what message or advice would Ted, or perhaps Ted's father, if he was with us today, have for those striving for black ownership, be it a brewery or another type of business, but feels frustrated?
Don't worry about frustration. That's part of business.
Okay.
Really, in your heart, what is your drive? What do you want to complete? If you have a goal, it's up to you. Are you going to quit? See, most people don't reach their goal, not because it's too hard. They don't reach it because they quit. Dad
Facts.
never quit. This dude was tenacious. We used to call him the wild bull from Midway because when he say he's going to do something, he's going to do it no matter who's standing in his way. And he's going to stay focused. He's going to find a way. And that's kind of how I learned when I got research. Because a lot of, we're sitting in the Peoples Room right now. The Peoples Room has some fantastic items. This is the original Peoples items. There's original people cases in this room.
In the room that you guys are in right now?
There's
Oh!
And
Is that like the actual original can?
in the top of it.
Hold it up a little more. Hold it up a little more.
You gotta go up.
There you go. Oh, it's those old school ring pulls. Yeah, is that full?
Oh,
No, it's not a full can, but this is one of the original cans from the early 70s.
That's insane. I've only seen that in movies. Oh, that looks like a can of soup or something. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yo, okay, and then like literally, you guys like it's the exact same label. That is amazing.
Yeah, so when Becca, Jeff's wife, she usually takes care of all the artwork.
That's so cool.
So
Okay.
when they were creating the artwork, there was some variations, but when it came down to it, we're like, hey man, it's like it's already done for us, just
Yeah.
like the recipe. Like, why change it?
Yeah.
The difference with the can that we released, the cans that we released today, they have a black label
Okay.
instead of the dark navy.
Well, this
Just because,
I have the navy one. The navy one.
yeah. So this is for the 50th anniversary of the People's Beer. That's why we chose to do something different, and it's in 16-ounce cans.
As opposed to the 12. Okay.
Yeah. So if we keep when we produce it, we're always gonna produce it and put it in 16-ounce cans now.
Okay. Is that what it
Yeah.
was? Is that the one you just showed us? Is that a 16 from back in the
That's
day?
the 16-ounce can.
Okay. So it's going to be a year-round regular thing that people can access?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's definitely something we want to keep producing, and we just want to take it to a global level.
Yeah.
It's like the beer is amazing. I think it will run with, the big boys.
Oh, yeah, man.
So, yeah.
It's when I first tried it, I didn't really know what to expect. So I did I think I posted it already, but I did a 1-minute review. So when I first got it, I was like, all right, let me do that 1 minute and release it this week in the lead up to the podcast. And when I cracked it, it was like there's something like, even though obviously I was born in the '80s, so I was drinking, I guess, in the late '90s or whatever. But so I don't know a ton about what beer would have tasted like, back in the day, because I wasn't drinking the good stuff. But it definitely, for some reason, you could just tell it was nostalgic. There was something about it that tastes not from now, but the obviously, macro beer. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I can't do it. I can't drink Pabst. I hate Pabst. I can't stand any of the macro beers.
Hey, high fives.
Hey. Pabst is like my worst beer of all time. Like, I can't do it. So I wasn't sure because, as we were saying earlier, there wasn't a lot of beer in the 70s. Like, everything was fizzy yellow kind of lagers. So I didn't know what to expect, but I knew it was made on modern beer equipment. I imagine your beers would be, of the standard of today. So I was like, I wonder what this is like. And it's like, now I'm on my second can. I'm like, I never drink the same beer back to back. I can't do it. Like, I just like the change. And this is such a pleasure to drink because it's only 4.7. Like you said, it's got the flaked corn in it, so it's light. It's a light lager. There's something that's like, even for someone who wasn't there, it's nostalgic. I don't know really how to explain that, but it also feels there's a quality to it that obviously reflects modern, craft pilsners and lagers and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys could speak to the profile of it, whether from back in the day, from Ted or from your side, Roger, doing it today. But I don't know. I very, very much enjoy it, and particularly when I had it the first time, it kind of took you by surprise. I didn't even know how to describe it because I hadn't had anything like this before. And then now I'm drinking them, talking to you guys. I mean, maybe because I'm involved in the story, and I'm like, oh yeah, all right, tell me more. Like, and I'm drinking the same, like it's the experience of this is fantastic. But yeah, if you guys could maybe talk to the profile from both sides to explain, being that this beer is trying to go global, which I really hope it does because it's historically significant. There's no better time right now for people to be drinking this. Like, what can people expect from this beer? What are they going to be tasting that maybe they don't get in other beers?
Okay, you want me to go with that? Okay, so with this beer, you're going to be able to drink this beer year round.
Okay.
It's my favorite beer is the one that I can drink over and over and over and never get tired of it.
Yeah.
And it's like I always want another sip. It's like I really, I only have one back here, but I got to get another one.
Go for a run. Go for it.
If you look at at the lager styles, I judge beers as well, and it fits the description of a light lager. You want it to be crisp, dry, not too sweet. It's easy drinking, sessionable. If you look at the color, they're typically like the color that's in your glass, like a light golden straw color. And it take it to brew it. Not to brew it, but to take it through the fermentation process. It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. And a lot of the beers that were brewed in the United States back in the day, they were all lagers. Hops were out there, but you didn't have like super hoppy beers.
Of course.
And it was I think in the 80s, and this is in my opinion. I can't go back to after Prohibition, but I noticed in the 80s, and I didn't even drink back then, but there were beers starting to pop up. Like Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
It's like Newcastle.
Sam Adams.
Sam Adams. Anchorstein.
Yes.
So beers like that is like when I got older, I was like, oh, I remember seeing these on the shelf. Now I can taste them because I was legal, but I would love to find a can of this beer, like unopened with some beer in it. I would taste it.
Yeah, why not? You have to.
Yeah, I might have some kind of reaction to it. But I'm that dude. I'm like, man, you have to taste all of your ingredients. Like some people won't taste their yeast. You have to taste that yeast and see what it tastes like when it's healthy. You have to taste your grains, even your water. Like the water profile on this, like Sacramento water is great for brewing beers like this. We don't have to use a lot of salts.
Okay.
But it's a straightforward light lager. In the summertime, mowing the lawn, hanging out at the beach, just chilling. This is a season, like a
all season.
Year long.
Yeah.
Sessionable beer. what's the new word? Crushable.
Crushable.
You can
That's what the
crush
kids
this
are
all
saying.
year long.
Oh, it is super crushable. So
Yeah.
the other thing I was even thinking, for people aside from you both, have you guys, either of you, had any experiences with maybe people who have come in and tried the new version because they'd had the original back in the 70s? Like, has anyone come in and just had their mind blown by this yet that you've seen?
You know, that's a great question, and I would love to see that reaction. And this is something we talked about like a few weeks ago. If we could link up with the brewery in Oshkosh, if there are any, I don't know if there's any breweries there or not.
Yo,
Okay.
close. Okay.
What about any other breweries that you know of?
There might be some newer ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cheap Oshkosh is one of the people.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, so we were talking about it. It would be cool, you know, if we could link up with the brewery and brew it, and maybe we could get some of those older people to come
Yeah.
in and, you know, give some feedback on the beer. But that's something we talked about.
That would be
Yeah.
amazing. I'd love to see a video of that, of just people, like, because that nostalgia is meaningful these days, and it's something that probably people wouldn't really get very often, particularly with something that, 50 years old. And then not only is the beer tasting the same, the label is, almost identical, all of the same features, and I could imagine just being tripped out, particularly something that hasn't been around for so long, and people would just lose their mind. Because all those flavors, they really bring that. It puts you back in a place, right? And there's nothing really much stronger than, I guess, smells and flavors that put you back in some way. Like you said, Ted, that you walked in the brewery, you're like, man, this smells like when I was a kid. And I'm assuming that you were talking about this beer specifically because it would smell different to the other beers. Like, that would brewing a stout, it wouldn't be the same. So I can imagine somebody would be completely bugged out by this. So as far as like where people can get the beer right now, obviously, is it got distribution throughout California? Is it just up in NorCal? Sorry, is that what's called, NorCal?
Yeah, NorCal.
Okay.
Yeah, Northern California. So right now we're definitely Northern California. So we work with a distributor called Sakani.
Okay.
So they're doing some amazing things for us, and we're definitely looking to expand. There's going to be a lot of legalities that we have to go through, jump through some. So hopefully down the road we can do some stuff outside of Northern California. At least get it down to Southern California.
Yeah.
But I think people need to try this beer, and the one thing about Oak Park Brewing, every beer that we brew has a story. So you might not remember the beer, but you're going to remember the story. And if you remember the story, that's going to make you remember the beer.
Okay.
So we stories behind all of our beers.
Is that something that have you had much to do with that, the story side, or is it kind of like, does that stem from like the ownership, or is it more like
that's a great question, and I gotta give Jeff and Becca. So Jeff, Becca, and I, we are the brew team. So we talk, we communicate a lot, and it's like we were talking about this like early on when I joined the team. So it was Becca and Jeff over a year ago, and then I came on probably a few months after that. But so I don't remember some beers. I don't remember, but I remember stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the one about the okay.
Yeah. So we just stick to that. All of our beers have a story. All of our art boards that we make for the beers, when people come in, it's an icebreaker.
Right.
So how did you guys come up with the artwork? We tell them a story, they won't forget the beer. So that's something that we constantly do. We have a story with the beer. Jeff and I, and I think we have the same mindset when it comes to like formulating the recipes and what we want out of the recipes. And we just make it work, man. It's like we communicate. If we're not digging on something, we sit down and figure out why we're not digging on it. And then we make that beer. We try to get it close to what we want, because you're as good as your last beer.
I guess in this market, right? Everyone wants what's new, what's next. At the same token, the interesting thing, I'm not sure what the trends are right now down there. I mean, I feel like craft lagers and pilsners are definitely on the rise, seemingly everywhere. It's becoming something that even I'm typically a haze kind of guy, and every time I go to a brewery now, well, before the pandemic, I guess, but I'm always like, where's your pills? That's all I want straight away. First thing. And I feel like if even like a guy like me who's obsessed with that stuff, with all the haze, is going to that. And then now this is like another level because there's like, a craft dry hop lager or something. That's cool. But this is like nostalgia in a can that's fire. So it's like a whole other concept to wrap my head around. And I imagine, but in the end, it's not difficult. But I mean, like, it's changes in the game. Like, imagine recreating beers that don't exist anymore, and then tasting them today with all the ingredients and maybe more modern equipment and stuff like that. That are just that's cool, man. Like, you guys have really stumbled onto something that is legitimately impressive. Both in the quality of the product and the concept in and of itself, and then just being, the descendant of the first. I mean, that is like, that's history, right here. Yeah. And doing it with one of the two black-owned breweries in Sacramento is just it's a beautiful thing. It genuinely is, and it's telling this, the story of beer. From my understanding, black people were the first people to make beer on Earth. Whatever, hundreds of thousands of years ago. And you guys really playing a part in potentially introducing craft beer to a demographic that is extraordinarily underserved, as far as what Tio from Crowns Hops always says to me. Because man, there's no craft in the hood. Like, you go there, what are you getting? St. Ides and Old English and all this garbage. They're trying to feed people, kind of to what you were saying earlier, Ted. And this might now maybe the kids might not understand it, but their parents might be like, I used to drink this. Like, here, the kids are of age, like, yeah, try this. I drank this back in my day. And that could introduce people to new beer. So what you're actually doing is this is playing a large part potentially in growing the industry, growing a very, very important demographic. Because, like you were saying, beer is for people. It's not for a color. Everybody has a palate. And it's I find it same as anything. With beer, with coffee, with good food, with wine. Once people discover the good stuff, can't go back. Right. And this represents that to me. I think it's just phenomenal. It's the coolest thing. It's very, very cool. I'm very honored to speak to you both about this, guys. I really appreciate it. This is so sick. You both should be extremely proud, and I really want this. I want this to work for you guys. I think it will. It's going to keep putting it out there, and I feel like once people discover it and try it, I think people are going to bug out and be like, man, this is what beer used to taste like, and now this is phenomenal. 50 years later, like, you can't go wrong. It's amazing.
Great, yeah.
What's sort of what can you tell people about maybe the future of Peoples Beer specifically? And Ted, what are you doing next? And then Rodg, what's up with Oak Park? Like, what?
You are hitting it right on the head. That we're making plans to expand. We're targeting certain areas, especially areas where my father was.
Okay.
My father actually, one of the things that he did, he found distributorships, and he sent a railroad car full of Peoples Beer down to California.
Okay.
This works. My father, we settled in Atlanta, Georgia, and so we're looking to do things there in Atlanta.
Killing that.
He came from Alabama. So we're looking at some of the things that we're going to go through there, through some of my father's roots to get it done. So it is very powerful what we're doing. And even we're looking back, like you said, wouldn't it be great to do something in Oshkosh?
Yeah, take it back, take it home.
That's where you will have the people who their fathers, because I talked to some of my friends from Oshkosh, and they say, wow, Ted, my dad used to drink your beer every day. We always had some Peoples in the house.
Of course.
And so they understand the legacy and see they are just now finding out that this is coming out. And on tomorrow, I'm gonna, we have a few things going out on Peoples Beer Co. On Instagram, and there are going to be some things on Facebook, and Oak Park Brewing. We linked up to do some things, so we're going to get the word out there. And then as we drive demand, we must make sure we have the production to handle that demand, and also make sure that when some of the tricks that are played on us before. We got to be ready.
Yeah.
We got to be ready. But I think there's such a hunger now.
Oh yeah.
This a lot of times in life, it's about timing. It was a great idea. And my father was a great man that pushed it as far as he could. But what if now is the time? You know?
Yep.
And when we're looking back and we're seeing the same kind of stuff that we're still fighting over, you know, not loving your brother because he may not look like you. That's about the craziest thing I ever
ridiculous.
heard. And the reality is that hate only destroys, but love is the thing that holds us together. Because I remember when we were in Oshkosh. Okay, we're about to move away, very closed down. My father's doing other businesses, and he's in Milwaukee. So he says, you know what, I'm going to sell this house. I stayed in the house because I was in college, but my younger brother had to finish his senior year, and we didn't want to move him. So since I worked on weekends, I made enough money to take care of the house and everything else. So that's what I did. And when we were going to move, neighbors came up to us. Some of them very sad, like, you know, I'm sorry to see you go, you know? And we're like, what's going on? They're like, because before the Macks came to our neighborhood, we thought blacks were what we saw depicted on TV and on the news. And they said, that's a lie, because that's not what blacks are. They said, you know what? They have that show on TV called Cosby. He said, here it is in our neighborhood is the real Cosby. Your father owns one of the biggest companies in the city. Your father always makes sure you guys do the right thing. My kids have slept over your house, ate your food. You have changed our whole perspective and dynamic. And I just wanted to tell you, thank you. See, when you stop fearing each other and start learning each other, you find out you can look at a man's heart to discover who he truly is. It's not what others say about you that matters. It's what you say about yourself and what your God has said about you. I believe in who I am with my God and with who I am in my family. I try to live up to the things my father has taught me. And I try to raise my sons to stand on their own 2 feet, but do it with intelligence. Because my father loved intelligence. And I said, my sons, you got to learn how to think your way out of a situation. I said, as a Mac, you can't look like everybody else walking through life looking at their feet. That meaning looking at what's before you. I said, but as a Mac, my father taught me how to look around the corner. And see what's around the corner so you can perceive what's coming after you before it comes. So you got to think your way out. And my son was in college. They're both in college right now, twin boys. My daughter's down at FAMU in college, going on her last year. And I want them to be able to be productive men and women. Black men and women, yes, but productive men and women in society, knowing their worth, you know? Because Daddy always tells them that you're valuable. Daddy always tells them that you're important. Daddy always tells them that any dream you can conceive, then you believe, then you can achieve. I have to get them ready to match the moment of their life. And I tell them who they are. I have books that I've written, you know, notebooks that I've written positive things about them as they grew up. So if they ever think they're not loved or their daddy never loved them, all they have to do is read through them books. What did I say when you were 2 years old? What did I say when you were 5 years old? Look and see what I said when you turned a teenager. Look when you made your first decision to go college, you leaving me. Look what I said when you turned into a man. You're 20 now, or a young lady. You're 21 now. I still believe in you. But also, these are some issues I see that you stumble at, but you can overcome them. I'm real with them. I believe in them, and I've given them the right kind of structure. Because see, this man didn't run from his responsibility. Say, am I perfect? No, I no way, no, I'm not. But I'm present. My son said, Dad, thank you. He told me that I think it was last year. He came home from college. Thank you. I said, thank you for what, man? I said, man, I love you. He said, no, Dad, you were there. And I see some of my friends whose dads weren't there, and I see the wounds on their soul. He said, Dad, even though the hard stuff you've been through, you stayed. You were there for me. So, if we stay, we're there for it. We believe in the dream that we have inside of us, be it a business or whatever it is, because we each have talents. Just do you, but do it in excellence. And be a significant power source to somebody else. Lift somebody else up. Touch another life. Don't go forth with this hate. Try to love one another. Try to honor our differences and respect it. I don't have to be like you to be with you. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And that's all I'm saying. That given the opportunity, we all have greatness in us, but we all don't support each other. In my marriage, I'm like my wife. She knows me. You know what she just did?
They gave him the signal.
She gave me the shut up signal. People like this.
She's like, kill it, wrap it up, wrap
it up, baby. Because she knows me.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Because I've learned that, the man is the head of the house, yeah, but the woman turns the neck. I end on that.
I love it. This is not even a beer podcast anymore. This is a this is life lessons right here. This is beautiful. Honestly, guys, this has been an honor speaking to you both. I genuinely appreciate your time, and I'm super glad we connected. Learned a lot. I hope people listening and watching learned a lot about everything that's happening here. Just before I wrap it up and get everybody to tell us where they can find it, what I need to do, I need to take the thumbnail for YouTube. So I take a screenshot. Could you guys hold up, like get both of your faces, if that's okay, in the screen there, and hold up the can? Ted, you've kind of got half your face in. I might have to go a little closer if you want to see that pretty face, see the pearly whites. There we go. Ready? There we go. We got it. You guys are legends, man. Both of you. Where can everybody find out everything about what you're doing? Website, social media, all that type of thing.
You can find us on People Beer Co. on Instagram. I am Ted Mack II on Facebook. We're working on a new web page right now, so I'm not going to put it out there yet.
Okay.
But Oak Park.
Yeah, so you can find us at Oak Park Brewing. It's okay. Let me make sure I get this right.
Come on.
On Instagram.
I know. Let's go.
OP Brew Co.
That's the one. There you go.
And the website. I'm a sucker right now because I want to make sure I get this right.
It's okay. You're in charge of the beer.
OakParkBrewing.com.
OakParkBrewing.com.
Yeah, I think so. But you can
Google it. It'll come up.
Yeah. So you can find me and my daily woes on Instagram at Black's Brewed Beer.
Yes.
BLKS. Brewed Beer, and man, it's
That's
like
a cool account.
Any platform, Black Brewed Beer.
I love that.
You can find. Yeah,
it's a great initiative, man. It's just really showcasing.
Cool. So one quick question.
Yeah.
So you said Tiffany had a question for Mr. Mack.
Yes. I think I asked it while you were off screen, but she was when you took the call very briefly. But she basically just said that she wanted.
I was actually in the can. So.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, hey man, I'm gagging right now, but it's okay. You got to it's the problem with the beer podcast. I could ask. Usually, I'd ask you a question that would be a long answer. I'll be back in a second. Let you keep talking, but we push through. Yeah, Tiff was just asking about advice for people striving for black ownership. Which is a good question, because particularly in an industry like beer, when there's so little black ownership, it's like less than 1%, which is wild out of 8,000 breweries. So I think what you're doing is going to start to push that number up and get more people interested in the ownership, and even people like Tio and Benny they have a diversity fund now where they're giving money to or grants. I'm sorry, I think more than a fund, with able to help up and coming breweries. with all the, there's a lot of, opening a brewery is no small thing, as both of you know. Like, it's literally these days millions of dollars, or at least 1 to 2. With everything, branding and equipment and permits and so on and so forth. So, no, I think this has been like super educational. Yeah, man, I can't thank you guys enough. Stick around to the end. I'm just going to wrap up the podcast. We'll wrap up the live. Then we'll wrap up the Skype. So,
if I can say this, Craig.
Yeah, please.
We're going to be streaming live tomorrow at the 50th. So tomorrow we're doing the 50th anniversary of the Peoples Beer here at the brewery.
Okay.
So it's definitely going to be COVID friendly, but we're streaming.
Okay.
Everything online. So if the weather doesn't permit, we're still going to stream. All the vendors are going to stream online. So if you guys want to check us out and see us in action, just go to OP Brew Co. on Instagram, and we should start streaming live at 3:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. So yeah, guys, make sure you tune in, check that out. This video will be up now indefinitely, so it's going to be, people can rewatch this and they'll see that. So tomorrow being Saturday, October the 10th.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. Guys, gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate you very, very, very much.
Thank you.
Everybody, if you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, and hit the notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us on social media at BAOS Podcast, and check out the long form audio so you can hear legendary. You can hear history on this damn podcast. Appreciate it. Every week we're here 8 p.m. on Fridays for the foreseeable future. Episodes on audio every Wednesday. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Boom.
Thank you.
All right, Joe.
Bye.
Peace, live people. Cheers.
Bye.